Sinn Féin has proposed a neutral budget that is fully costed by the Department of Finance and Department of Public Expenditure. We've identified key areas and key priorities in our budget, and it's all about political choices. It's clear that the government have lengthened and deepened the recession by the austerity measures that they've introduced, and we want to address some of those nastiest cuts that they've introduced. We're also at the same time putting €800 million into the pockets of ordinary families by stopping water charges being introduced and by scrapping the property tax. We've identified key spending areas in health, education and social welfare, and an investment in social housing of €1 billion to address the social housing crisis that we have in this state. In health, we've identified 1,000 additional nurses and midwife posts with additional services, for example in discretionary medical cards, making sure that the most vulnerable are protected. We've identified in education an increase in the back to school and clothing and footwear allowance of €50 for families that are eligible for that payment. We've also identified an increase in the free school rental book scheme and also the free meal scheme. We've also identified an additional 1,000 resource teachers to make sure that our children have the supports that they need when they enter their school-going years. In terms of social welfare, we see a priority is increasing the FIS payment by 10%, which would be over €18 on average per family that would be eligible for that payment. We want to ensure that the forced immigration of our young people comes to an end, and that's why we want to make sure that those that are under 26 have parity in terms of their social welfare payments with those that are over 26. We will do this over a 2-year period and increase the payment this year by €40. We've done all this in a costed way, measured and costed by the Department of Finance and the Department of Public Expenditure, that brings in a neutral budget at the end of the day. This is about political choices. Sinn Féin have focused on those that are most hard-pressed, have focused on the public services that are broken, making sure that we rebuild them, and also focused on social housing, making sure that we address the social housing crisis.
Well, we intend to spend an extra €250 million, which is additional support for those people who are most vulnerable in our society, reversing many of the cuts that this government and previous governments introduced. It has gone some way also as a stimulus to the local economies, but in particular one of the key areas that we're hoping to help people is to make sure that when they go back to work, that work pays. So for instance, there's a change in terms of FIS. We're also talking about scrapping Job Bridge and making sure that that is replaced by an encouragement of employers to use Job Plus, which is a neutral cost to the state, where employers get a subsidy for each unemployed person that they take on, and that can add down to the tax take. The key part of our budget throughout, not only in the social welfare spend, is to protect those most vulnerable in our society and to ensure that they can survive. So that we're talking about €250 million additional spend on social welfare, but also ensure that Irish society across the board don't have to pay water charges, don't have to pay the property tax, and that means extra money in the pocket of all citizens. But in particular, that will be of a benefit to those who are dependent on social welfare.